Welcome to I Could Talk to You All Day. I'm Lauren Lefkowitz, recovering workaholic, perfectionist, and people pleaser.
And I'm John Spears, emerging from playing small, getting caught up in the inertia of life, and always being on.
I Could Talk to You All Day is a show for executives and emerging leaders. This is not just another leadership podcast. We're here to talk about what it means to be a leader while also being human.
So join us for raw, vulnerable, and probably pretty funny conversations about shifting from surviving at work and home to thriving in the life you've always wanted. Let's get the conversation started. Hey, Lauren Lefkowitz.
Hey, John Spears.
How you doing?
I am great. I've just awakened from a long slumber of being not great, and now I'm great again. And such is life.
You know, we're recording this podcast the day after Groundhog's Day. And even though I think the groundhog, Puxahatchee, Phil, whatever his name was, said that we're going to have a lot more of winter. I'm certainly experiencing that in like my physical world. It's like -8 today where I am. I also feel like I'm emerging from this really dark, hard time in my life.
Yeah. It's Puxatawny, Phil.
Puxatawny, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I always learn from you.
We expand each other's body of knowledge.
Totally.
Yeah. I want to tell you, first of all, -8 doesn't even sound real. I'm sorry that that's what's happening to you right now.
Yes, it's not fun.
I don't know how people live in temperatures that are lower than 0. I admire you in all new ways.
It's a way that I get out of my comfort zone, which is something we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
Not really.
Well, I spent this week in my comfort zone and I hated it so much. I left some work for the last minute, which is very like me. I'm a born procrastinator. And I decided to take the weekend off to go to Philadelphia to see a friend. It was amazing. I don't regret it for a second. We had the best time. And I picked up another friend along the way. And the three of us just like ate a lot of cheese and
ooh, yum.
Oh, yeah. And then we ate more cheese and then we came home. And I don't regret it for a second. I didn't think about anything but being there. I was super present there. And you know, John, that I'm very COVID and virus sensitive because I'm a little bit higher risk. So going was sort of a feat for me to like go into a city, be with people, stay with people, all of that. So that part was getting out of my comfort zone to be in my comfort zone. Being with people is super comfortable for me. But I came back and on Monday and Tuesday, my days were absolutely packed with all things I wanted to do. And I had a self-imposed deadline to get some writing to my book coach. And I had already postponed because I hadn't been feeling well at the end of the year. She had postponed because she had a situation. And so this was the day, right? I had to get her my writing by the middle of the day on Wednesday. And it was Monday morning and I hadn't written at all. And I had to get her like 30 pages. And that's my comfort zone, which sounds so warped because, right? It sounds so backwards to say that my comfort zone is putting a ton of pressure on myself because I left things to the last minute. But it was my life for so many years to work 15-hour days, to get up first thing in the morning, thinking about what was on my plate, what I had to do, what I had to get done. And it now, like reverting back into that was horrible. That is an uncomfortable comfort zone now. And so hopefully I've learned some lessons, right? Like I'm doing some reflecting on it now and I'm thinking about what had me going there and putting myself in that position because I did have the time to do the writing before. Some of the writing I'm doing is hard because there's some trauma involved in that. But it's also funny because it's me. And so
Of course it's funny.
Thank you. Thanks. That's why I took the pause. I was waiting for you to tell me I'm funny. So thank you.
Mhm.
And I got it all done because of course I did, because my sense of responsibility is one of my strongest traits. And I actually enjoyed doing the writing. I just didn't enjoy squeezing it all in.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to revert into our comfort zones. So I'm really excited that this is our topic.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's a really great segue to talk about what is a comfort zone. I always sort of heard people talk about this before I got into coaching or really into doing some inner work around this idea of a comfort zone. And your explanation of what that looked like for you in this situation is really helpful. We oftentimes, even if it's not comfortable, find ourselves in familiar situations where we might feel comfortable in chaos or feel comfortable in stress. And so we gravitate to some of those things. I think that's a really interesting thing for us to talk about today. When we talked about comfort zone initially in having this conversation, it was more about the ways in which we kind of hold ourselves back or keep ourselves safe and comfortable and warm. And I often like to think about comfort zone as the things in my life that are really familiar, the things that are low risk, the things where I know that I'm going to be successful, or I know that there are lots of knowns and I can easily navigate whatever is happening. And so when I talk about comfort zone, I really think about that, that space in my life where I feel like I'm just like wrapped up in a warm, cozy blanket and everything is safe and stable and the water is really, really still. And while that for me is like a feeling of safety, it also keeps me really small. It keeps me from living the kind of life I want to live, from doing the things I want to do, from being the person that I want to be. And it's this real like paradox and sometimes struggle for me for wanting that safety, but also wanting what's on the other side of the line. I kind of see it as a border. Like there's this like border that's like everything in here is safe and known, and everything on the other side is unknown. And I think, and we've talked about this before, is like possibility exists. Everything I actually want in life is on the other side of that line.
Yes. I love your definition of comfort zone. And I just pictured you standing in still water, wrapped in a comforter, which feels like some sort of a offbeat J. Crew ad. But I picture that being like a really like offbeat, somehow sexy to be in water wrapped in a blanket, right? Kind of
with
photo.
like ripped jeans and a polo or something. Yeah,
absolutely. And did you just say a bolo?
Polo, like a polo shirt.
I was like, wait, are bolo ties back?
I mean, yes, a bolo would be perfect for that too.
I still remember the feeling of sliding the slider up a bolo tie from my life in the 90s when I was super stylish.
Okay, can we just take a quick side note on bolos? The only time I wore a bolo was to a Willie Nelson concert that my mom took me to when I was a kid. And it was a silver bolo with turquoise little stone in the middle.
Yes, I also had a silver bolo with a turquoise in the middle and a black leather braided strap.
Yes, that's what it was. Maybe that's the same one.
That I wore with a button-down shirt, shorts, corduroy shorts with matching tights. And brown boots. Don't be jealous.
I'm very jealous.
But back to this picture in my head, right? We know that when you're taking modeling photos, not because we've been models, but like you know that when you're taking modeling,
I know when I take modeling photos, whatever you're about to say happens.
Like the actual getting into position for the photo is generally super uncomfortable and horrible. And you're sometimes wearing a bathing suit in like 20-degree weather. So I picture like the aftermath of this really offbeat, sexy photo where then you're soaking wet and you're in what's actually very murky water that they're going to fix in post-production. Yeah. And this comforter is 4 times as heavy as it should be because now it's doused in water. And so this like analogy of comfortable being familiar is like, it's not what it seems.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I think of my definition of comfortable, like you, it's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was super uncomfortable over the last few days. I was worrying I wouldn't get everything done. I had a full panic attack, which is very uncomfortable. And also I chose this because I was like, I can get it all done. I work well under pressure. I don't anymore. That's not my life anymore, but it's what's familiar to me, to like squeeze it all in. And I've got to have pressure on myself to get anything done that's for me. And so this idea of wrapping ourselves in a comforter because we think it keeps us warm and comfortable and safe is wrong, because then we look down at that comforter and it's dirty or it's tattered, or like you keep like catching your finger in one of the holes in the comforter and you're like, oh, I gotta sew that up, or I gotta get a new comforter, but you don't, because it's the one you know. And so it's that being in familiarity that is so tempting, even when we hate it, because it feels scarier to throw the comforter off, expose ourselves to the cold, and see what's out there. And so there's this sort of line, you said, you know, it's possibility. It's also really scary a lot of times to think about what could be possible. So sometimes it's easier to stay in that like tattered form of comfort because you don't have to take any chances.
I think that's such an important point, because we all have this experience. Our reptilian brains are still thinking about risk and safety and security. And while we're no longer in whatever the ages were where woolly mammoths roamed and humans had to sort of like survive because a saber-toothed tiger was going to kill them, we still have those fears. And anytime there's something in our lives that feel like risk or encroachment into safety, we respond with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, faint, any of those responses. And it really comes down to our relationship with the unknown, with our relationship with uncertainty and with change. And you know, the content might be different. What's happening in our lives might be different. They might be unique to us, but how we see them, the context, the lens through which we view the relationship we have with those things is really the thing that is going to either keep us in our comfort zone, keep us feeling seemingly safe and comfortable and warm and secure, and also unfulfilled and unhappy and not really utilizing all of our talents and not making the impact that we want to make in the world. Or it's going to get us out of there and be okay with feelings of discomfort, feeling uncomfortable, the unknown. And so I'd love to hear how you've thought about that. Like how has this evolution for you played out?
When I was in my corporate life and I was working 15-hour days regularly, that was my known. And I had worked up to it over a bunch of years. So every added thing was just like a tiny little bit of new that came into my known and came into my comfort zone. And so for me, and you and I have talked about before, things happening to us versus us happening to things, right? And so a lot of my comfort zone was built around things happening to me and me having to be resilient. And I embraced that because I got really comfortable with it. And as you were talking, I flashed back to my teenage years where my brother or I would go out and our mother would say on our way out the door, bye, have fun, be careful. Be careful was louder than have fun. Sometimes be careful came first and last, and have fun was sandwiched in between it. But we're brought up in these protective measures of be careful. If you step too far out of what is known, of what your comfort zone is, it will be dangerous. It will be hard. You probably won't like it. And there probably will be some kind of punishment for it. What I've since learned is that there's great reward in being willing to step out of your comfort zone, in choosing how you step out of your comfort zone. And it also has made me a different kind of resilient in what happens when something does happen to me, and my bounce back and my reach out for support, which has increased a ton in the last few years, my willingness to reach out for support. And so I lived in this comfort zone for all of these years, right? Like, just that's how it was. I worked Monday through Friday. From the second I woke up, I was checking emails and organizing my day until basically it was time to go to sleep. And then I caught up on work on Saturday and Sunday because I didn't have enough time to do all of my work during the week. And then I would squeeze in things, fun things, and or my health concerns, or, you know, things I needed to do. But that whole dynamic was comfortable for me because I knew how to manage it. So stepping out of my comfort zone to even think about launching my own business, to even think about making coaching a full-time venture, was several iterations of me running into my own wall and saying, oh, I would love to coach full-time, but you can't make money doing that. I would love to coach full-time, but I can't not have health insurance. I would love to coach full-time, but, right? And so we convince ourselves to stay. And it's only when we allow ourselves to get confident about what we actually want to, and I know we'll talk about this in more detail later, but to notice it, right? And decide we don't want it and get out of it. Which sounds like 3 easy steps, but it's not.
Just follow these 3 easy steps and your life will be perfect.
Notice it,
Yeah.
get confident in it, then do it. You're welcome.
Done.
Yeah.
We've solved all of your problems. Thank you so much, Lauren. Mic drop. Everyone have a great day.
This will be a short episode. How about you, John? When you think about like comfort zone and familiarity, like how did it show up for you in your life?
It was so interesting. As you were talking, I started jotting down the narrative and the story and the context around how I've kept myself in the known, in safety, in comfort. And here are like the 8 bullet points. Here are like the 8 things that I came up with.
So you've got 8 easy steps, and I have 3.
Well, these aren't necessarily easy steps. These are like 8 ways. These are the 8 ways that you can keep yourself in your comfort zone.
It's great how we make life so easy for everyone else.
Yeah, totally. 8 easy steps. Here they are. 1, I don't have this belief, this fundamental belief now. It still is a narrative that I'm working through. But there's a narrative that I tell myself that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not capable enough, or that I don't have the skills or the resources to be able to navigate hard and difficult things. Also, oddly, I have this narrative sometimes that like I need saving. I mean, it kind of goes really well with I can't do it, because like I need someone else to come and like save me and do it for me and maybe get me out of my mess. I don't have the ability, kind of similar kind of themes, but like I'm just not capable of it. And that fundamental belief, I think, is a little different than I'm not good enough, because it really questions my own ability to like live, sometimes around certain things. There's certainly a strong perfectionist narrative that if I can't do it well, don't do it at all, right? And so when you have that perfectionist narrative, there's always a need to do things right. And if you don't know how to do something, that's really unrealistic to like the first time you're in a situation to do it the way that like you want to do it, or that's sort of done well. And so this sort of shift to practicing into seeing life as an opportunity to practice and to grow and to learn has really been helpful. Maybe we can talk about that later. Also, similarly, kind of to a finer point, having like a fixed mindset, like, oh, I'm not good at it now, and so I'll never be good at it, also kind of keeps me really comfortable. And this last one is like, I don't know, it's different. It's slightly different than the other ones. And it's around, I had a really hard childhood, or I had a really hard life in the past. And I just want things to be easy moving forward. I don't want any more disappointment. I don't want any more trauma. I want things to be easy moving forward. And I understand all those things. And if I allow these narratives to play unencumbered without being checked, I would certainly be very, very comfortable and also very unhappy, very unfulfilled, very lonely, and not really experience the life that I want to live. And so over the course of the past several years, I've really worked at to your point, number one, I think is your thing, identifying what are these narratives, what are these stories that I'm telling myself that are all lies and that keep me in this really small place.
Yeah, you're pointing back to our second episode, which was facts and stories, facts versus stories, which is we tell ourselves lies all the time. And lies really help us keep ourselves comfortable.
Totally.
And so do fixed mindsets. And you said that, and I was like, ooh, coaching buzzword. So I want to just like explain that a little bit, because I did not know for a long time what a fixed mindset was. I just knew mindset was like some sort of floofy idea of like living from your heart. Now that I understand mindset, it's like what I coach on. But if you haven't read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, she sort of was the major person to really outline it in detail. But the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset is that a fixed mindset is this is how things are. Mm-hmm. These are the facts, right, as I see them. And this is how I am living in this bubble of how things are. A growth mindset is that anything is possible. Everything is possible. Something is possible that's other than my current reality. I may not know how to do it. It may or may not be achievable for me, but I want more. And so I'm going to throw away the idea that this is how things are. I'm going to throw away the fixed mindset. And that can be on something tiny, like I don't like lettuce on sandwiches, which we talked about in another episode. Now I love lettuce on sandwiches, right? I have a fixed mindset on that. And then the growth mindset is, well, what else might I like? Now I learned I like lettuce on sandwiches. What else might I like? And really thinking about possibility. And the next step when you develop a growth mindset is, how do I find the resources? Because you recognize that you don't have to do it all on your own.
Yeah. And I came to read about a growth mindset and a fixed mindset through my kids' education. They were teaching that in school, and it was really about learning. And I think that is kind of the fundamental point here too around comfort zone, is that if we are not open and curious and committed to learning, then we can oftentimes keep ourselves small. And so when I talk to Callum about math, he might not be able to do a math problem, but he can learn how to do it. Right now, he can't do it, but there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity for learning. There's an opportunity to hone his skill on whatever crazy math sixth graders are doing, which frankly, I cannot do. Like, I am not helpful in math homework anymore. It's really sad. And I feel really, really pedestrian around math stuff because I don't even know what he's talking about when he's doing it. But I'm going to learn.
You have a fixed mindset around sixth grade math?
I caught myself in my fixed mindset, and I am learning and I'm growing, and it's possible for me to learn sixth grade math all over again. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Not really, but whatever. Lawrence, we kind of talked about the different ways that we experience comfort zone. Sometimes it's to keep us safe and comfortable and warm. Sometimes we get comfortable in kind of chaotic situations or sort of self-sabotaging situations. We talked about our own experiences and sort of what led us to kind of identifying why we're in our comfort zone and some of those mindsets. For folks who are listening, for our community, what are, in addition to the 3 steps you said before, what are some ways to think about either identifying how we're kind of keeping ourselves safe and how to begin to get comfortable with the discomfort that exists when we take a big step over that comfort zone line?
I think the first step really is noticing it, and I sort of joked, like, notice it, get confident about it, do it. 3-step program.
So easy.
So easy, totally done. And those are actually, in my mind, the three major steps. There are 400 steps in there.
Yeah.
Right. If you walk away from this episode and you're like, okay, I've got Lauren's 3 steps, I got to do it, you're going to be overwhelmed. Because every new thing that I do starts with me noticing it. Noticing that I'm in a place I don't want to be in. Noticing that I've created or recreated a pattern that actually doesn't serve me. It's just familiar. It's just what I know. That's what I did this week in setting myself up for 15-hour days and pressure to get something done. As you grow, as you decide to step out of your comfort zone, it gets easier to notice when you're going back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you walk away with anything today, it's notice. What is your comfort zone? What are the things that you're doing in your comfort zone that are not comfortable? They're just familiar. What don't you want anymore?
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's like the major first step. And then you can start the next steps. What do you want instead? What do you know how to do that's in that list of things you want? What do you not know how to do that's in that list of things you want? And how can you get support on that? How can you get either vulnerable enough or resourceful enough or confident enough to ask for the support that you need? And then you start the doing, you start the creating, you start tiptoeing out of your comfort zone, right? If you crash out of your comfort zone, you're going to come right back in because it's going to be cold and wet out there.
Totally. Yes.
Right. And sometimes that happens to you when you have an emergency or a medical issue or something like that, or work crisis. Sometimes it happens to you and you don't like it. So all you want to do is get back into your comfort zone because it is cold and dark and wet out there and you do not like it. If you're choosing it, if you're choosing to get out of your comfort zone and you're willing to do it in smaller steps and you're willing to get help with it, it's actually quite amazing. It's how I changed my life. It's how I got myself to recognize that not only could I build my own business, but I wanted to. I found the resources to. And now I get to live and make money in a way that I want to. That's different from the way that my entire career went for 25 years. How about you? What are your easy steps?
I have 5 easy steps. Here are my 5 easy steps. Money back guarantee.
Welcome to our free podcast.
Yes. The first is when you're making a decision or when you're in a situation, ask yourself, from where are you making this decision? And think about it. Are you making it from a place of comfort, of fear, or from a place of possibility, belief, trust in yourself, belief that the universe is benevolent and has your back? And I think that for me is a really helpful way when I feel some tension around a decision to kind of check in with my body and check in, like, from where am I making this decision? The second is there's fear in stepping out of our comfort zone. And so cultivating courage, which is also another podcast episode that we did, but cultivating courage is really helpful in beginning to get more comfortable breaking out of our comfort zone. The third is practice. And you said something where, like, if you're going to like do something really big out of your comfort zone, awesome, do it, go for it. But oftentimes we need to get comfortable making those decisions and feeling uncomfortable and doing that. So maybe start with something small, but begin to practice and get comfortable practicing. The fourth is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. This probably is one of the hardest things, and it's something that I've experienced over the last year in a way that I've never experienced before. Is I've really been committed to growth and to living outside of my comfort zone. Lauren, you know, we've like been on the phone for hours talking about this stuff and how uncomfortable that I've been in a lot of this past year. And while it's not fun, it's not a party, it's not something you want to like live in all the time, I found such growth in being able to accept what's there, accept the fact that I'm having this experience, And it's really led to so much growth and more courage and cultivating more practice and stuff like that. And the last thing, and you also mentioned this, is support. We can't do this stuff alone. We can do hard things, but oftentimes we need support around doing hard things. And so find some folks that are going to cheer you on, that are going to support you. Find a community that you can trust to partner with. Find a coach. The thing that I love about coaching is that when we begin to break out of our current way of being and walk in the fullness of who we are, our body wants to go back to homeostasis. Our body wants to go back to the known. Our body, we want to go back to like the experiences that we have because it's comfortable and familiar and safe. Growth doesn't happen comfortable, familiar, and safe. And so get the support you need to kind of continue to help cheer you on and push you forward in living the life that you want to live.
So beautiful. There's a quote by Kathy Heller, who's a podcaster, an abundance coach. And she said something to the effect of, you think about the cost of investing in yourself, but you don't think about the cost of not investing in yourself. Right. And I have a few clients actually who came and talked to me about potentially working with me, said, I'm gonna try some of this stuff myself, and came back a couple of months later to actually work with me because they finally recognized they were no longer comfortable in their comfort zone and they wanted out. And you have to be ready for that. So the noticing, the seeing what you're uncomfortable with in your comfort zone is so important, because if you can't see it, then you can't see the possibility of what else can be. If you can't see it, then you can't see how reaching out for resources, whether you're paying for them or whether it's somebody offering their time or whether it's somebody who's gone through what you want to go through and you can get some mentorship from them. Investing time and energy and money in yourself and your own development is absolutely required for you to get powerfully out of your comfort zone.
Totally.
Yeah. It's what honestly made the difference for me this week. The fact that I was able to reach out to you, the fact that I was able to reach out to some people who know me and who know how I can get when I'm deep in my comfort zone and doing it dysfunctionally, and who offered me love and support. And I'm here when you're ready to talk about it. And that support is so important because you can get otherwise so wrapped up in your own head and in your own stuff.
Yeah. Lauren, I could talk to you all day about this.
And I could talk to you all day.
Thanks for this conversation. It's always really good to connect.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye. We're so grateful you decided to be with us during this episode. Subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and join us next time for more Real Talk.